On Larry King Now, the Handmaid's Tale star O.T. Fagbenle. Did you know right away this is gonna do good?
Well, I didn't really know, to be honest. I didn't, it's embarrassing to say, but I didn't know the book. And so I had to read it, and obviously when I read it, I was like, oh wow, this is just extraordinary. Like, I finished it, I wanted to read it again.
What's Elisabeth Moss like to work with?
Oh, it's really painful, to be honest. She's very precious. No, I'm joking. She's great. She's, in fact, to be honest, it's extraordinary because she's got so much. She spends so much of it in like torturous pain, and it's such a big acting job too. And she's so charming on set.
Are you enjoying the Hollywood aspect of your career?
I like the opportunity to work with great people, and that's what's the best thing about it. The rest of it, I appreciate it, but I'm slightly indifferent.
Plus, famed youth empowerment expert Shane Feldman.
Whether it's smartphones, social media, the social pressures, peer pressure, bullying, so much of it doesn't matter what country, what city, what state you're from, you're facing the same sort of things in similar ways.
That's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is the actor O.T. Fagbenle. He's known for critically acclaimed television roles like Walter's War, Looking, and The Five. We've also seen him on stage in London in Porgy and Bess, Conquest of the South Pole, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He currently stars as Luke on the Emmy Award-winning drama series The Handmaid's Tale. When you saw it, it was a famous book, Margaret Atwood.
Right.
You got the script. Did you know right away this is going to do good?
No, I didn't really know, to be honest. I didn't, it's embarrassing to say, but I didn't know the book. And so I had to read it, and obviously when I read it, I was like, oh wow, this is just extraordinary. Like, I finished it, I wanted to read it again. And I knew some great people were involved, Elisabeth Moss and Reed Morano and Bruce. But you never know. I think you never know how things come together. There's so many moving pieces. So luckily things came. There was a serendipity to it.
So who is Luke?
Well, Luke is Offred's husband, our lead, Lizzie Moss's husband, and I guess he's like an everyday man. I mean, I think what's interesting for me about Luke is he's a guy you can relate to. He's kind of a nice guy, cardigan-wearing guy, and he's thrown into the middle of this civil war. He's thrown into this dystopian reality where a kind of fascistic government has taken over. And
fertile women are being...
Yeah, like fertility is dropped, kids aren't being born, and it's kind of thrown America into some kind of strife. And this crazy totalitarian government takes over. And he's left in the middle of it. He actually has to escape. He becomes a refugee.
And he goes to Canada.
Yeah, good old Canada.
As the book ends, he's in Canada, and we don't know what happens.
Well, actually, the book, it kind of leaves it in a bit of uncertainty what happens to Luke. She's not sure if he's died, if he's managed to escape. And so good old writers, they decided that he survives. And that, that means I've got a part.
So the second, season 2, will not relate to the book.
Well, in a way, I guess, what's so great about Margaret's source material is it's so dense, and she'll make these little comments about something that's going on in Mexico or outside in Canada. And what Bruce Miller, our esteemed writer, has done is he'll take a sentence like that and he'll make an episode out of it. So in many ways, it is from the book, but it is an extrapolation out of it.
What's Elisabeth Moss like to work with?
Oh, it's really painful, to be honest. She's very precious. No, I'm joking. She's great. She's, in fact, to be honest, it's extraordinary because she's got so much. She spends so much of it in like torturous pain, and it's such a big acting job too. And she's so charming on set. She's so professional. She's always on the ball. And not only that, more recently I've come to understand how much she really understands the totality of television making, everything from camera angles to shots to the producing to the writing. She's a savant of television.
Do you think this relates to the Me Too movement now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue of the patriarchy, the way men have kind of dominated women for such a long time and kind of subjugated them to like unfair treatment, unfortunately has been relevant for many millennia, basically. But yeah, there's a kind of convergence here where the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement are kind of coming together, and this piece kind of resonates with that.
Of course, Atwood was ahead of her time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you know her?
You know what? The first couple of times I got to meet her, I was I was just like fanboyed out. So I was like, "Hi, Mrs. Atwood." I just didn't have anything. She's so smart. You always feel like I'm going to be an idiot if I open my mouth next to her. But we went to the Emmys and we were around each other a lot at that time with her and her husband. And so I got to talk with her some more. And she's just an extraordinary life force and person to chat to.
So fans of the book will not be angry at the part 2 is not from the book, but she had an influence on it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that, but I'm a fan of the book. And I was like, I'm not getting enough. I want to know what's happening next. You know, I imagine all the fans of the book want to know more, me included. And Miss Atwood is an integral part of that. She talks to the producers and she looks at all the scripts.
I wonder why she didn't write a follow-up.
I mean, she's prolific. There's loads of books she's done. I mean, I don't know. Luckily, she left it for us.
Can you tell us anything? Here we go. It's all a secret. This is the famous television thing. About season 2.
I'm going to tell you everything, Larry. Okay?
Go ahead, spill it.
I want to spill the beans. It's you. What am I going to do? Well, I can tell you a few things.
All right, what snippet can you tell us?
Well, in the book, Margaret's book, she talks about the colonies, because there's a whole kind of like radioactive spill that happens in America in the book. And she just kind of touches on these colonies. And what the smart writers of the show have done is they're in season 2, we're going to get to see that. We're going to get to see what these colonies look like, this radioactive land, what that looks like. We're also going to get to see a little bit more of what's going on in Canada with the American refugees that have to move up there. And it's going to get a little bit more intense back home in America.
Are you having fun doing this?
You know, they sometimes say that comedy sets are the most dramatic and drama sets are the most lighthearted, and that's definitely the case here. You know, in between the hangings and the torture, there's a lot of banter.
Does Luke change at all? Does something happen to Luke in the second season?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's kind of gone through he's kind of suffering from some kind of post-traumatic stress. It's kind of, and which everyone is who's come out of this kind of civil war that's happened in America. And he's desperate to get back to his wife and child.
Do they get back?
Well, that I can't tell you. They are very serious. I got to tell you, the people that come up with this show, they've got a very sick imagination. They could torture me.
I know, but there's other shows like that. You can't tell a word.
Yeah, they're very serious about it.
Makes you want to see it, doesn't it? O.T. Fagbenle will answer your questions from social media. Don't click away on this edition of Larry King Now. We're back with O.T. Fagbenle. He's one of the stars of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, an extraordinarily success, Hulu's biggest hit. You attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in Great Britain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that hard to get in?
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, I didn't realize how hard. They audition between 2,000 and 3,000 people, and they take 17 boys. And when I auditioned...
Just boys?
Oh, well, 17 guys, 17 girls.
Oh.
And when I auditioned, they pretty much only had like one brown person a year, so they was just kind of a small spot for me. And I was only 18 as well, and they didn't take a load of those. So the odds were stacked against me. But I had some really great teachers. A lady called Martina Laird kind of took a shine to me and worked with me on my Shakespeare pieces, and I managed to get in.
Only black because they're prejudiced?
No, you know what? I mean, I guess it's hard to really tell chicken and egg what happens, whether it's institutional prejudice or demand within the market. But one way or another, actually, soon after I graduated, not because of me, there became more and more diversity within RADA, and also there was more and more diversity within the television industry.
Did you ever work for the old Vic?
You know what? I haven't. I've had an opportunity to work for the young Vic, but I just did the National Theatre. It was the last play I did. I did at the National. We did a play, an American play called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Won the Olivier Award, and yeah, it was an extraordinary experience. It's some of the best theatre in the world in London.
Okay, was it always a goal? Do all the British actors want to get on American TV?
You know what's weird is I hadn't even considered working in television when I went to drama school. It wasn't even a thought of mine.
You wanted to do theatre?
Yeah, I was in love with theatre. I didn't watch much television.
So how did it happen?
Well, actually, my break came from. I'm working with an actor at the moment, Max Minghella, who is one of the other male leads, along with Joseph Fiennes in the show. And Max's father is Anthony Minghella, who was the amazing Oscar-winning director. And he gave me a role. He gave me quite a small role in a movie with Jude Law and Juliette Binoche and some really fantastic actors and actresses. And I didn't have much to do. I only had a few lines, but I was around for a month around him. And I fell in love with just the art of filmmaking. And so I think that's what gave me the bug.
Do you like it as much as the stage?
I guess it's different, really, because, I mean, TV pays better. So, look, I like it, I like it for that. And theatre, in many ways, is harder.
Yeah, the camera has to like you.
Yeah, yeah. And when we have a testy relationship, me and the camera, we're still working it out.
And you don't play to the last row.
Right, exactly. But I love that, you know, because when you do theatre, the audience becomes another character with you. They respond to you and you respond to them, and it's so immediate.
No two nights are the same.
Exactly. And when the last show I did, I played a musician, and I remember one time, you know, I was playing the trumpet and I was messing around with my trumpet, and we had to play music live, and my trumpet froze, and then we were on stage. Like, what are you gonna do? You can't be like, cut, let's fix the trumpet. And so the guys on stage with me just made fun of me for about 7 minutes. Which
You like complex parts?
Yeah, I think so. I think people like watching complex parts. You know, people who can contradict themselves.
Are you enjoying the Hollywood aspect of your career?
I like the opportunity to work with great people, and that's what's the best thing about it. The rest of it, the kind of shininess of it, I appreciate it, but I'm slightly indifferent to. I really love the art. I love working.
But you have your paparazzi in London too, do you not?
Yeah.
Worse there.
They're intense. They're intense. But we have such a hunger for celebrity and the crevices of people's lives.
We have a couple of fan questions for you.
All right, let's do them.
Sawyer Ford won on Twitter. If you had to give up the stage in London or in front of the camera in America, which would you choose?
Oh. To be honest, I'm doing a lot of writing and directing at the moment, and so that doesn't leave a lot of time for theatre. So my heart hurts to say it, but I probably would take a break from theatre.
Also, Mr. Ford also asked, what's your favorite thing about working for Hulu and The Handmaid's Tale?
You know what? They really support and trust the artists and creators of the content. I think a lot of times there's like, and they're smart, and you know, and so that combination is great, because I think sometimes you get people who don't really know a lot about TV and they have a lot of power and they want to have a lot of say. But at Hulu, they trust us, and that's great.
Nancy Sands on the Larry King Now blog. How long do you foresee The Handmaid's Tale going on? Do you think it has multiple seasons?
Hi, Nancy. I think we've got smart people and there's lots of stories to tell. I hope it doesn't go for 10 seasons. I think things kind of get a bit worn and tired if they go for like too much, but I definitely think we've probably got 4 or 5 or 6.
It's nice to have steady work, though.
Listen, it keeps me off the streets.
Where do you shoot The Handmaid's Tale?
In Toronto, lovely Toronto. Apart from it's freezing, we shoot like October to March. It's cold. It's like aggressively cold.
Beautiful city, though.
Beautiful people there as well.
Great seeing you. Continued good luck, man.
Pleasure. Thank
Big thanks to my guest, O.T. Fagbenle. Be sure to tune in to the season 2 of Handmaid's Tale. We've learned so much about it. We learned about the colonies, and that's it. We'll be right back. Joining us today is world-renowned youth empowerment expert, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur, Shane Feldman. At only 23 years old, Shane is the founder and CEO of Count Me In, the world's largest youth-run organization aimed at inspiring kids to make positive changes in their communities. He was also recently a part of A&E's groundbreaking docuseries Undercover High, where he went back to high school, posing as a teenager, to uncover what life is really like for today's public high school students. Undercover High is available to stream on ANETV.com. Thanks for coming, Shane.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
How did Undercover High come about?
Undercover High, I mean, I feel like one of the greatest parts of doing that project was because it was the ultimate professional development for my work with youth over the last decade or so running Count Me In. So it was a great opportunity that was married by two facts. One, that I've worked with students in various capacities as a speaker and mentor and through my organization for the last several years, and the fact that I look like a teenager myself.
You do. What high school did you choose?
The high school was Highland Park in Topeka, Kansas. So very representative of a very typical American public high school. It was a third African American, a third Hispanic, and a third Caucasian, and about 70% poverty. So very diverse high school.
How did you know to find that school?
It was the production company. I can't take credit for that.
Why did you decide to do this?
You know, I feel like as much as I understand teenagers, there was an element that I was missing that I really could only get by being immersed with them in that way. So that's why I took the plunge. I really wanted to understand what the challenges are that teens are facing today. And what I uncovered is that things are so different than when I started high school just a decade ago.
But you were in high school in Canada, right?
I was, yes.
Very different than the United States?
Absolutely.
So did you come from a different perspective?
Yes and no. I mean, I've now worked with students and spoken in countries around the world, and what I have found are that there are so many universal commonalities across the kinds of challenges, the kinds of things that teenagers face today, whether it's smartphones, social media, the social pressures, peer pressure, bullying. So much of it doesn't matter what country, what city, what state you're from, you're facing the same sort of things in similar ways.
So the teachers and principal knew you were there for that reason?
The teachers did not. The principal did and the superintendent, but no one else. So I still had to do my homework and study for tests.
How long did you spend at the school?
A full semester, 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get good grades?
I did all right.
What surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most? How misunderstood teenagers are today. So many parents, teachers don't really understand what teenagers are going through. There's this growing, scary disconnect between parents, teachers, and the next generation, I think largely due to smartphones, social media. I feel like my mission has almost changed a little bit coming out of that project, just wanting to close that gap a bit to help the older generation better understand what kids are going through.
Why do teenagers, and I have 2 teenagers myself, get so involved with their cell? Why is the cell phone so controlling in their lives?
I mean, scientifically, smartphone companies, social media companies actually have scientists on staff whose only job it is to make these devices as addictive as possible. So from a scientific standpoint, there is actual proof that there's addictive qualities in these phones and these devices, but I also think they simulate a sense of community. We all want to feel a sense of belonging, and even though it's not offering true belonging, it kind of falsifies that connection. And that's something we all want in our lives, right? To feel like we belong, to feel accepted.
Yeah, but it's weird because what about vocal?
Right. Well, kids don't do that anymore.
Why
But
not?
social media, well, it tricks your brain, right? It's such an easy way, and we all want that instant gratification, so it skims the surface of relationships and kind of tricks your brain into feeling connected.
You're very into anti-bullying and community involvement. It's become your mission. Why does it hit home for you?
For me, I mean,
Being bullied?
I think we've all been bullied at one point or another. But my story really started starting high school in a new community where I didn't know anyone. I had a really challenging time starting my freshman year, making new friends, kind of finding a sense of purpose or belonging. And the way I found my way out of that was when my school counselor encouraged me to sign up for a handful of clubs and councils, which doesn't sound like rocket science, but getting involved in my community changed the trajectory and led me inevitably to start Count Me In as a small school project to motivate my peers, which kind of grew from there.
Tell me about Count Me In. You describe it as the largest youth-led organization in the world. What does it do? What is its purpose?
So Count Me In is an organization that inspires young people to connect with one another and with their communities in a meaningful way, whether that's through acts of service, volunteer projects, or leadership opportunities. Ultimately, Count Me In is an online hub that inspires students to be involved.
In the United States and Canada?
We've now impacted about 10 million youth in 104 countries to date over the last decade.
You started it?
Yeah, as a small school project, our first office was my high school locker. And now we have a team of 37 spread across 3 countries and 3 continents.
How do you make a living?
Speaking is my main source of income. So I speak around the world. I spend about 2/3 of my year on tour.
How do you get booked?
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
I'm a speaker. I have a speaker's
people
agency
call
that
me.
books me.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you have an agency?
I have a manager and an agent, and I think most of my stuff now is from incoming through Count Me In. I mean, this platform has gotten me in front of so many people.
And what's your topic when you speak?
Building a sense of meaningful connection, whether it's in the workplace or with students or with educators. Building that sense of community to increase productivity and impact.
You speak to adult groups?
Yeah, about half of my groups are students and the other half are corporate.
Count Me In creator Shane Feldman on his experience speaking at the March for Our Lives rally. Plus, he'll answer some of your social media questions right after this. Back with Shane Feldman, the founder of Count Me In. You spoke at the March for Our Lives rally. What was it like?
Inspiring to see kids running that kind of movement.
What was your message to them?
To keep going. I mean, that they have a voice, that they have value. I honestly, at this point, don't think they need someone like me to tell them that, because you watch these kids and they are all heart and they are all motivation, and it is beyond inspiring.
Hard to believe people criticize them.
Not hard to believe.
I guess. Were you inspired by, did you meet any Parkland High kids?
I did. I met a young woman named Kate. She's 16, and we shared the stage. She spoke right after me, and it was just heartbreakingly beautiful hearing her share her account of being in the school and experiencing that.
You think we'll see a change in gun policy in this country, ever?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Is there a strong disconnect between youngsters and seniors and adults today?
Huge, huge.
And why?
I think it stems from just a place of, it's challenging when things are growing and changing so rapidly, especially with technology, that kids are kind of keeping up with, but adults are not. So when they're on these devices, when they're closing their doors to their bedroom and just in their own virtual world, I think it's hard for parents to always know how to break into that world, how to be a part of it.
You're only 23, right?
I am.
Do you intend to keep on being involved with youth when you're 33, 43?
In some capacity, but I've watched my own business evolve just over the last couple of years. I'm incredibly passionate about young people and about helping young people thrive, but it gets me just as excited to help an adult uncover their value, their purpose, their potential.
Where are you based? Where do you live?
I live halfway, or part-time in LA and part-time in Toronto.
You keep your Canadian roots.
I do. Proud, outspoken Canadian.
So you'll continue the movement.
Absolutely.
We have some viewer questions. Steve Semino on Facebook. How do you drown out the ugliness on social media?
I had a really wise mentor, Josh Shipp, tell me that you should not make someone's words a priority to you when all you are to them is an option. So I took that to heart, and I don't give weight to people when they don't mean much to me.
Kim Deitweiler on Facebook. Do you have a mentor or someone you admire who is helping to create positive change in the world like you are?
Absolutely. I have too many mentors to name.
Name a few.
Josh Shipp, Cal Fussman. I look up to people like Blake Fleischacker, who's another remarkable speaker I work with.
And all of these people have what in common?
They're all unapologetically authentic. Unapologetically authentic. And
Well
just
put.
emanate goodness.
Morgan Giampetro on the Larry King Now blog. What do you think people get wrong about the millennial generation? Is there a misconception about millennials?
Yes, that they are selfish and only think about themselves. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think the truth is they just care very deeply and they have a level of self-awareness. And sometimes it's challenging to see past that, and adults just see them as being selfish.
Morgan also asks, where would you like to see Count Me In go? Anything new on the horizon?
Well, when Elon Musk makes it possible for us to expand to the moon and space, then that sounds like a natural next step.
When did this start for you, this public speaking, this whole idea to get involved, children?
Really?
Were you in school or was it after school?
Yeah, when I was getting involved that freshman year of high school, when that started to, change
In
the
Canada?
trajectory in Canada, in my high school, Westmount, in just north of Toronto. And getting involved really changed the way that I viewed myself. It distracted me from what I thought was a terrible high school experience. And I just saw all these students around me not involved in anything at all. And I just felt like they were missing out, and they didn't even realize what they were missing out on.
What was your terrible high school experience?
Starting and having no friends, being in a new community, not knowing anyone,
You had just
feeling
moved
lost.
there?
Yeah, I moved around a lot since my parents' divorce, and one of those moves was right before my freshman year.
Were you close with both parents?
No, much closer with my mom. My father and I have had a very challenging relationship. I think he lacks the capacity to be emotionally available all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Do you see him, speak to him?
Started to a little more so now, but growing up, I certainly felt like I didn't always have a father figure to look up to.
What does your mother think of what you've done with this?
My mom has been a consistent rock for me throughout this experience. She is incredibly insightful. She's a parent educator, so really understands the work that I'm doing and is just as passionate about it, and is consistently, we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. She's a remarkable woman, and I'm
You're
grateful.
a remarkable young man. Do you have brothers or sisters?
Two younger sisters, Carly and Jordan, who are constantly supporting me, making me laugh, and making me feel human.
Scott, it's a pleasure having you with us.
Always a pleasure, Larry.
Big thanks to my guest, Shane. I called you Scott. Wow. A big thanks to my guest, Shane Feldman. Be sure to watch Undercover High. It's available on anetv.com. Also, visit cmimovement.com to learn more about Shane's organization, Count Me In. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Kingstings. See you next time, and I'll figure out who Scott is.